Perfect. Guys, welcome back. Community Beacon, another episode. Shining light, shining bright. Transformations. Let's get this thing going. It's Friday. It's mid-June. I know you all didn't think that it was gonna come around this quickly, but it did.
It's
Here
here.
we are. Here we are, mid-June of 2025. Glad to be here. Mike Seville, your real estate guy here in Palm Beach County. Of course, on the other side of the screen, we have and we normally have our names up here. I don't know what happened with that, but we'll figure it out. My brother from another mother, from the Tenacity Foundation, the incomparable Joel Simmons. Oh, there we go. Come on, man.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
just
sir.
you speak it out and it happens, right? Like you
That's
just
it. That's it. That's it. That's it, man. Live and in charge, man. We here to do the thing, man. We here, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here with you again, Mike. I really am. This has been it's been a challenging day. I have to tell you that much.
Oh,
It's been a challenging day. There's some heavy ones that we had to shoulder through on today, but I'm definitely grateful. Shout out to the entire Tenacity Foundation team. Much love. And also to my cousin who just had a baby.
oh, congrats.
Yeah, just had a baby, little baby boy.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful baby boy. So yeah, we're loving it. We're loving it. Whitney family, all of y'all. That's real.
Where I'm from, we call that a double blessing. So shouts out
Ooh.
to you said Whitney.
Uh-huh.
Shouts out to cousin Whitney. Congratulations on your bundle of joy. In the spirit of not only what we're talking about today and what we'll be talking about for the next couple of weeks, healthy, wishing it a healthy, bouncing baby boy, and to you and the baby and the father and everyone involved. Congratulations and blessings and healthiness to you all, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
All right. We last week we jumped into healthy. What was that like? Had a bunch of people come on the show and had some interesting conversations. I advise you to go back and watch it because it'd be interesting for you to go. We're talking about healthy, and you may disagree and or not align with everything that we said when we already told you on the first show exactly what we thought healthy was. So go back and watch that, catch up. If you're not in alignment, you're like, what are these guys up here talking about? We kind of ran through that briefly the last show. So go back and check it out. That was last week. We asked what does healthy really mean. We kind of laid it out. And now we're going to go into healthy mind. Where you want to start, brother?
Oh man. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I got about like three different points of view that I'd like to share. Some thoughts behind this healthy mind. I mean, all right, so listen, healthy mind, these are just 3 points that we ought to think about, right? So a healthy mind is not simply the one that is filled with nutrition, the appropriate nutrition, but that is a part of having a healthy mind. You have to have a healthy brain, right? The mind is really like the way that the brain is being used. So when you think about the earth is not the world, right? The world is the system that is going on within inside of the earth. So the mind is the system that is being utilized by the brain, right? So in order for us to do that, there's two different perspectives right there. Like having the clear, clean thinking, healthy mind, and then having the functioning, healthy mind that also has that has appropriate nutrition as well as disease prevention, and then a spiritual mind, right? Getting back to alignment, right? So these are like three topics of study that I think that we should dive into when we start talking about what is a healthy mind and how do we continue to keep that mind producing what we desire it to produce. So this is where I'm headed, the direction I'm headed in with our conversation today, bro.
I'm here, so jump into it. Which facet do you want to start with? I heard spiritual. I heard I'm assuming cognitive. I'm following you. Let's go ahead. I gotta
All
spin
right.
myself.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Let's
I want to see
let's
what
spin
see
it.
what topics are you bringing to the table as well. It sounds like we're on the same page.
I'll get into it. But go ahead.
All right. So let's jump into like the spiritual mind, right? So the spiritual healthy mind, it's anchored. It's going to be anchored. Now, I don't know what faith you all have. I know what faith I have. So I'm going to speak from that point of view, from that perspective, and you can do your part on, whatever it is. But mine is anchored in my faith. This is a big thing for me. It's helped me so many years on end, like 25 years, even before that. Um, but it wasn't anchored before that. I will have to say that. But it's like the alignment with like divine purpose, and focus on God's truth, fostering peace, right? Inside my mind, resilience, right? And it's through that connection, my spiritual values. And that's how I come about that. So, like, here's a scripture, Isaiah 26:3. And it says, Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusted in thee. So now let's look at that. This is a focus point. It's a focus point. When you start to think about it as being a focus point, you have to understand that your mind should have some type of focus, a purpose, right? So we talked about this a few weeks ago when we started to break down vision, clarity, focus, and persistent consistency, right? So now when you're hitting that module or that pathway right there, you have to have some type of vision. Well, inside of your mind, your spiritual vision is your spiritual makeup. That's your spiritual makeup. If you have no spiritual vision, you have no spiritual makeup. You have the absence of spiritual makeup. You have the denial of spiritual makeup, which in itself is a spiritual makeup. But having a spiritual makeup, something that you desire to drive forward towards, gives you a focal point, a place to go. And so this has helped me because it's given me the opportunity to learn what peace, how to obtain peace, how to keep peace, and what peace is to me, which I think it may be different for many people. But for me, it emphasizes my spiritually healthy mind. So Dr. Carolyn Leaf said on one occasion, when you think, you build thoughts, and these become physical substances inside of your brain. Now, this is the connection right here, right? Many years ago, Mike, I don't know where it was. I just remember I'm driving on the turnpike down here in Florida. I'm heading up north to go to, I think it was Convocation in Savannah, and we pulled off onto one of the shops, the restaurant stops and everything that they have on the turnpike, the rest areas. And when we get there, I walk inside. It's a big, nice area. They got TVs sitting up over the perfume stand, and they got all the food and everything else on the other side, and the gas station is in the other building, right? And so I go in there, and the TV catches my eye, and I look at the TV, and it on the TV, there's a report from some newscaster that's saying studies have shown that doctors, quote unquote, I don't know how many this is, there was no percentages given, but doctors prefer to operate on patients with faith. Huh, what's this all about? So I stop and I'm like watching this thing. And they said the studies have showed that there are more active parts inside of the brain in somebody who believes. Now, there's no clarification or classification of what they believe, what God they serve. None of these things. It was just the fact that those that though the study was, do you have faith or do you have a religion, whatever? And those that put down on this study that they have a religion and at some rate they follow it, they tend to have more activity in different parts of their brain that that they're able to activate and stimulate. And this, as they were saying these many years ago, was proving to have greater results in their operational success. So going into the doctors with faith was proving, no matter what faith it was proving that patients were able to successfully come out of the operation room. That's a heavy thing right there. So, like for me, like one of the things that I teach in my fire framework is that, you know, focus is so important. It prioritizes. So now when you look at it as far as a healthy mind, and when we talk about spiritual things, then we're talking about focus on prioritizing your divine truth over worldly distractions. Period, point blank. That's it. It's that simple. And when you do that and you get in that type of alignment, you're going to have a much clearer mindset. And we'll get into that too, especially when we start talking about, because you mentioned cognitive as well. But that's where I want to start it off with.
Yeah, so just to be clear, what I heard was for you, a health being healthy spiritually had to do with faith being the focal point or finding some kind of focal point, whatever that is. For you, you find it in your faith. Is that kind of what I heard?
So, right, this is one facet. This is just the spiritual facet. I think that there's still more to having a healthy mind because there's like there's so many things that we have to unlock, right? You know, there is the part where you're talking about cognitive. There is the part where we're talking about being a good decision maker, and there is the part where we're talking about, you know, just kind of healthy or being free from disease. So it's just like when we talk about a spiritually healthy mind, then focusing on your divine relationship, your alignment with your faith is super important. And I put that as first because I think that, you know, according to my faith, God comes first.
Awesome. So I get it, and I think it's and you you brought the stat or you what was I'm gonna leave that alone. Um, hmm, for me, faith is it's there. You said it earlier. You said that it's or beliefs rather, it's already there. And if you choose not to believe, you're believing in something, right? So you're believing in something, whatever that is for you. Uh, for me, and this goes back to the my definition of just being healthy is and extremely in regards to spiritual healthiness is connection versus disconnection. Uh, I think the spirit is always working. Your faith in something, the what needs to happen is as well, are you in alignment with that faith or what you claim to be the faith? Because I think sometimes we have an internal representation and we're not necessarily connected, and then that's where the misalignment may come in. So you regardless of what you're here, whether you want that thing to be energy or God or whoever it is that a person subscribes to, uh, you know, be connected to it. So, I think it once the connection with faith definitely for me is going to build towards that spiritual mind or healthy mind if that's what we're talking about. Here's a question that I have is that I always talk about the biases, and I want to say faith is, or excuse me, religion is maybe the third or fourth bias that most people have. This is one of the things that you're indoctrinated with. If you're born in the West, especially if you're in a black community, it's going to be Christianity. That is going to be the thing that most people are talked about. That's one of, and it's actually probably one of the things that has been the least checked in America or in the West. So I always go to say, well, what does like most of us don't even know what healthy is. It's kind of what it's told to us. So a person who has a healthy mind spiritually is going to probably compare themselves to possibly their leaders in the faith. Um, you have certain symbolic figures, and I'm not talking about Jesus because we're already talking about Christianity, but then like the top leaders in the faith. Some people are going to TD Jakes church every day, and that is in their mind is would be the litmus test for healthiness. Um, they would look at their leaders. I'm just going to give you a couple of ways that I go with and look at what's spiritually healthy to me. And I make this snap because if we're going to talk about healthiness, and I spoke about it last week, we'll talk about the metrics that are involved in it. There's key indicators. What when you're going to these places, whether it's the church in the West or some people are going to mosques, some people are going to temples, what does a healthy place look like? How do you break to me like how do you break that down? Now I have my way of doing it and you can take it for what it's worth and maybe it helps you. So I look at just the physical appearance of it, right? Are people in the church healthy? Do they because they can manifest physically? Healthy, it's all in alignment, it's all the same thing. Do they look healthy? Do we spoke last week about flow? Is there flow happening? This is the connection versus disconnection. I know when I'm spiritually healthy, I'm having a flow. There's a flow going on. There's a connection. This is what I refer to as my relationship with the Most High. What is the rhythm like? How is this the Most High demonstrating through me when I go and I look at these places that most people go to that they believe are healthy? I can automatically say, well, how is the flow going? It's one thing for you to have a spiritually, and I'm not even going to say spiritually, a gifted speaker as a leader. It's another thing to see the actual rhythm and the flow that this person produces. And I can, now after years and years and of being, I grew up in the church. I grew up nodding, nodding off in the front bench pew, right? I've been able to identify for me what flow looks like. I know what it looks like for me. I know what it is in me. I know when I'm the most high is going through me as far as spiritually, and then I can identify it when this is happening with someone else, or it could be performative, or it could be. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons as to why people take the positions that they take. So spiritually healthy, I think Joel did a great job of for him what that looks like as far as being healthy. I'm going to tell you some tangible things that I'm just explaining some tangible things that I do and what you can do, or not, in order to notice that. First off, is just the appearance. Go in there and look at the appearance of the people. Are they healthy physically? If you're I totally believe if you're spiritually healthy, it'll manifest. I mean, it would not to say that people don't have issues, but if the entire place is filled with people who are unhealthy, it just shows to me. So I think at times there's dissonance between the two, but they all go hand in hand because that is alignment. So that's my spiel on spiritual thing, and I know it's tough for people to hear a lot of the things I have when it talks about spiritually, and just this is just my take on it of how I see spiritual healthiness manifest within myself as well as I see it in other people.
That's heavy, bro. That's heavy. So, I mean, I guess I just insert this one little piece as far as it goes for faith, belief, and where that kind of lands as far as a healthy spiritual mind. A healthy spiritual mind is going to be a mind that the scripture that I gave earlier, a mind that stayed on that belief, that faith. And so there's so many times that we can get distracted by so many things and we can lose that connection, find ourselves in a disconnection and think it is a connection. And so we have to mind that. This is something that happened in the time of Jesus when he sat before the Pharisees and the scribes. because the Pharisees and the scribes had so much knowledge. They were so smart. They had read all these scriptures, they had studied all these books. They had so much that they became disconnected. But because they looked apart, people thought that they were connected. And so there was a disconnection in one of the things that you had already brought up, which was the cognitive part. They were not studying. They didn't know what they should look for. They didn't understand the voice of God. So they just took the voice of the person instead. They followed people instead of followed God. And there's one scripture that talks about how they had obeyed the creation greater than the creator. And so the creator, I think it was in the book of Ephesians, he said he is through you all and in us all. Let me gather that scripture real quick, because I think that it's super important to know the difference when we start talking about this spiritual connection. It's one of those things where we're not looking necessarily for, you know, the people. We're looking for God. That's what we're looking for. That's who we want. We're looking for our faith. And though there are many people that are heralds as well as standard bearers, as well as dispensationers, we still have to make that connection. I think you mentioned it. You know how your faith feels when it moves through you. And I think that's the key indicator right there, is do I feel my faith moving from through me, right? And that's the thing that made the difference for me. Some of you all may have heard my testimony many years ago. The I was standing inside of a place of worship, and while I was standing there, I began to fix myself on my faith, on my belief, and I felt as if I had left the building. Everything that was happening inside of that room, it's like I had just left, and felt I felt God speak to me. I know that might not make sense to many people, but I felt his words inside of my heart, inside of my mind, and I felt that I was communicating with him. And it was because of that. That was that one moment where I began to realize that, okay, God is real. And I began to develop a spiritual mind. I think for me, that was the difference maker in what I believed. It wasn't, uh, there was some bias in the way I learned as I came up, but it was that singular moment that made all the difference in every bit of my life 25 years ago. So, this is the scripture, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 6. Um, I'll start at verse 3, 4. There's one body, one spirit, even as you are called, and one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. Again, this is my faith. So if the shoe don't fit, I'm not asking you to wear it. But when I look at it, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all, it means something to me. It touches me. I was speaking with one of my best friends. I only have a few of them, count them all on one hand. And I was talking with him about 20 years ago, 19 years ago, and he's Jewish. And we wouldn't contend with each other about faith, about religion. Number one, Legion. Legion is a group of demons that entered into somebody.
Bro,
Um,
let me jump in because I don't think this show is about contending with anybody about their faith. I think the we're talking about how does one have a healthy mind. We started off spiritually, and just to go back to your book or the book, it's each man be convinced in his own mind, right? That's a phrase of it. So I think and that's why when we jump into these biases or what how a person is biased, it tends to people tend to get convicted. And but that's you gave your thing in regards to spiritual, right? I gave my thought about how I go about looking things that are spiritual. And I think like it's important for us to not, I personally don't want this to necessarily be a Bible study. I just want to talk about your perspective of the spiritual mind, or this is part of the topic of the spiritual mind, and then we jump into whatever goes on with it. Because I know we got about 9 minutes left,
I love it.
you
I
know.
just finished my thought and I'll let you go forward. So, with that one piece about religion, it's to do something over. So, my belief behind the word religion is it is a contentious word. It's a word that is formed and divides. So that's why inside of and I want to share this with people because so many people are stuck. They're stuck in not loving one another. Like spiritual mind is a connective mind and they're stuck because hey, I'm Muslim. Hey, I'm Christian. Hey, you know what? I'm Joel. That's what I am. That's exactly who I am. And my belief, it dictates the way that I walk. And so I've been blessed to have Muslim friends, Christian friends, and friends that don't believe in God at all, atheists, because I was able to align my spiritual mind with my lifestyle and walk my lifestyle and not somebody else's. So I love what you just said right there, Mike, because that is the point that I would love to leave with people is do you to the fullest, but don't try to do me because that's where you get in a misalignment. And there's so many people that are trying to do somebody else based off of what they got inside of them. So let's move to the next one.
Yeah, we spoke about competition being the not it's not competition, excuse me. Comparison being the killer of all joy. That is probably one of those sayings that I most definitely agree with. Everyone has to walk their own path in their own journey. And that's why I'm very careful to say this is how I do it. You can take these, you can take it or you don't have to take it, because my life will still be peaceful. Um, Awesome. So I want to get into like this when we start talking about this healthy mind and how we think about it. And I'm gonna come a little bit from neuro linguistic programming, NLP. Um, because the mind is the most powerful thing that that's out there. Like if you learn about what exactly is going on, and we only use, I heard of the 5 to 10% of your entire mind, your entire brain. Like this is all you're using. So I said I took NLP maybe for about 18 months, a couple years ago, and it was awesome. And I'm gonna start with this story. Like I remember when I was a kid, I went to St. Francis of the Assisi. It was in Rivera Beach as in elementary school. I went there. It's now just a Catholic church, I want to say, but it used to be a school. These could be K through eighth. I went there until the fourth grade in Rivera Beach. And I remember they were giving away a bunch of books in the library. And even as a child, I was an avid reader, especially during the summertime. If we're stuck in the house, Mike's gonna have a book. So they were giving away a bunch of books. The teacher took me over there with a librarian. I was able to pick out as many books as I possibly could. And I'm telling you, I took a lot of books. Still have some of those books to this day. But there was always this one book that I still remember now. It had to do with a Cam Jansen, and in the book, she was the hero, or and she was like a detective, and her superpower was like photographic memory, similar to, you know, uh, what's this guy, Sherlock Holmes, right? If you ever watch
Yeah, I
Sherlock
love
Holmes,
Sherlock Holmes. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
you'll notice that he remembers like these distinct parts. So she was like the young Sherlock Holmes, right? And so one of the things that she did when she was looking at clues or when she was looking around, she would always say click. And when she would say click, it would just, she would memorize everything that was there. And then, of course, at the end, she would go back and talk about these different things that she saw when she clicked, but she was just taking the click and would follow in that memory. So when I was that age and I'm reading this book, maybe third or fourth grade, I'm not exactly sure which one, I always said, well, you know what? I have a pretty good memory. This is probably one of the reasons I believe I have a pretty good memory. I would actually use this same way of doing things is with the click and the
Mm,
click I would take that and I would file this thing away. Now this is, when I was in third grade, I probably was like six, probably 7, 8 years old. So this, from 7 to 8 years old, this was my format of remembering things. I would say click, and over time, it just became something innate. I no longer had to say it in my mind, click out. I would just remember things because I had told myself that I had a great memory. Regardless if there's any science or not, this is what I told myself. I actually believed that, and it became a part of my identity. So fast forward now, I'm at the late 30s, early 40s, taking this NLP class, and it was so dope because what it taught us was that your mind is constantly filing things, right?
mm,
And we don't really take the time to break this down, but your subconscious mind is for sure filing everything. But your conscious mind is also, things are being brought up and we're just filing them away. We're filing them away. So as I took this is a core values class, Steve Andreas is the actual founder of it. He taught us how to go back and actually use this phenomenal thing that we have called the brain, like actually use it. Like, how many people know exactly how it is that they file things away in their brain? And the way that I do it, this is another reason why everybody has their own journey, not just spiritually, but even cognitively. We all have our own pathways because we've learned, or we've put these things together at a young age. How we choose to remember things, how, what works for us based on our experiences, so on and so forth, culture, so on and so forth. So how do you actually, and this is some for you to, because I can't go through it all, like this is like an 18-month course, 2 to 4 hour clips, right? And you can go as much as you possibly want. So I'm doing these 3 4 hours a day. I'm actually learning, how does my brain file things, how do I look at certain things. I've already explained to you about, what Joe called the identity ladder, but you know we get this. I call it C, but really um it's a stimulus. You get stimulated because you how do you file things that you smell? How do you file things that you touch? How you see? Like, it's just a stimulating, and then because of our experience, we attach a feeling to it, right? This is one of the reasons why feelings come up depending on the person. We all can have the same stimulus, right? So someone could get punched and it causes them to fear something, right? Somebody gets punched and they're like, "Oh, I'm coming." You know what I mean, Paul? I'm a boxer. I've been taking these punches. Or this is how we feel things. One person can experience it differently. We all have our different perspectives, but it all starts from this stimulus. So with NLP, you're actually learning. Like, take the time out. You don't have to go through this long class. You don't have to learn how to teach it. Take the time out to say, how do we actually, and that's like the staple of a healthy mind. How do I take in information? What happens with my body? This is when I talk about I'm sitting with something, right? Stimulus popped up. Maybe, I'm sad. Well, I get a chance to go, because I understand this. I get a chance to actually go in and break that down, right? Like, okay, so what caused you to be sad? What was the stimulus that occurred? Oh, my mother passed away. right? Okay, yeah, yeah, you're thinking about your mother. Well, what about your mother? And this is gonna be this is I'm just showing you some of the steps. Well, what about your mother passed away that makes you sad? Well, she's physically not here with me. Okay, we understand that part. Okay, so well, what is it that you want? That's another question you get to ask yourself as we go through this. Well, what is it that you want instead? Well, I want the feeling of happiness, right? Essentially, once you break it down, once I'm not going through it, there's nuances to it. I'm just giving you an oversimplified way of doing this. Well, what? Well, and it'll go up to I want to be, and maybe not happy is the word. Maybe I want to be. I want to feel love. I want to feel, I want to feel. Yeah, let's say love. I want to feel love. Okay, so how can you go about doing this thing? Well, you can bring up the memories of your mother, can't you? Yeah. So what was the time that
Mm.
it was that your mother was around and she made you feel love? Okay, I remember this time that she did this. And I'm telling you, people, like we walk around with this this marvelous creation of a thing called a brain, and we don't take the time to figure out, like, well, what is it about now? Just in the same instance, we can talk about some of the ways that we can go in the other direction because we don't understand it. A lot of people think talking about a thing, right, talking about an issue or something negative, some people think talking about it is actually going to make it better. But studies have shown that talk therapy actually strengthens the pathways to make it worse. So if something negative happened to you, and we don't even know this, we just don't understand why we just can't get rid of this, this feeling. But I'll talk about it. And for a moment, because you're going to release dopamine, for a moment, you may feel relieved. For a moment, you may feel like, oh, I got it off my chest. At least somebody knows about it. Oh, someone related to it. Yeah, this person, oh, that happened to you too. This is like the beginning of trauma bonding. That happened to you too. Yeah, it happened to me too. And we talk about it. Now, every time we get together, we kind of allude to it. We talk about it. But this person is actually reinforcing this pathway of you going down this path, right? This what we've learned is that we have to figure out, how do we change the way that we look at something, right?
Mm.
How do you
It is.
how do you change the way that you look at something, which is something called accountability comes in, gratitude comes in, but there's different ways of how you do it. But this just us going over and over again. Maybe the first time is like, okay, I just had to get that out to make it real. This just didn't happen in my mind, right? Like this wasn't something fake that happened. Oh, okay, somebody else has this same thing. Now, where's the challenge is, how do we get past this? And how we get past this is not talking about this over and over again. It's actually using, this programming. Jung uses his way of psychology, but it's not just talking about it, right? You actually have to get in there and figure out, well, my brain works this way, right? When I was 3 years old, a man jumped out of the my mother was walking me. A man jumped out of the bushes and scared me. And he was wearing a yellow cap.
Mm.
So now every time I see somebody with a yellow cap, I feel a certain kind of way. I don't know where it comes from, but there's trepidation there. There's this there. That's because we began this at such a young age. Then once we figure this out, now this is when everything just starts to open up and you expose it. Is that I'm figured out. This is, to me, this is how you develop a healthy mind. It's first
Mm.
understanding, why is it that I see things the way that I see them. What about it is? What about it? And some of these things we may not necessarily remember, which is, and this, I'll leave it with this, is even one of the greatest things I loved about this neurolinguistic programming was that you didn't have to talk about the exact thing that happened, because it doesn't matter. One of the things that makes our brain so efficient is pattern recognition. And it
Mm.
can it can hurt you and it can help you. So you can just figure out something that was similar, right? I don't have to know when I was 2 years old that a man with a yellow hat scared me. I just need to know that this happens with this person with this yellow hat, and then I can kind of start to work on my files to make it better. Does that make sense?
I like it. I like it. That's good. That's good. That was a great question too. And does that make sense? It makes sense to me. I like that. You went into cognitive. The cognitive aspect of a healthy mind, and I think that there's a lot of correlation with my thought process on a clean and clear mind, right? Healthy mind, thinking mind, right? And I'll explain it. So, like a clean and clear mind, it's a let's just think about it from an integrity perspective. But a clean and clear thinking mind embodies like integrity by aligning your thoughts with your moral and your spiritual truth, right? So you've got this alignment. I have to say this, guys. Alignment is so big. Like Mike just was talking about awareness. It is so big. You need to know who you are, what you desire to be, what you present yourself as, and what you are becoming. And you need to check to see if all of those things are aligned. Because if they are not, you're going to have trouble. And what ends up happening a lot of times is you push your trouble on somebody else. That's what happens because your trouble bubbles over. So anyway, getting back to it, clean and clear. I like that you talked about this thing. Change the way that we look at something. That was the quote that Mike just gave us, right? Change the way that we look at something. I'm going to call that agency. We need to take control over our own mind, our own direction. We need to become we need to become the owner of the building that we are living in. That's what we need to do, right? And if the mind is one of the, if not the greatest organ inside of the entire body, you know, I know there's competition with the heart. There's some other competition, but the mind it's solid, y'all. It's solid. Nobody wants to live in a body without a mind. Heart could be pumping, but you don't know what's going on, right? The lights are on, but nobody's home, right? The doorbell's ringing, but nobody's answering. The elevator don't go up to the top shaft. Anyway, so it's just like this is something that I was able to find going through my troubles, going through my trials. And so trials, I think they make you stronger if you can learn from them, right? And so the thing that I learned was that I don't have control over anybody else. They can say what they want to say. They can do what they want to do. They can believe what they want to believe. They can go where they want to go. I don't have no control. So so my awareness became that of don't seat myself in a position where I cater my lifestyle to the way somebody else lives theirs. That's disalignment. How does this affect clean and clear thinking, healthy mind? Let me give you the rest of it. It's three parts to it. That's actually part two. Part one is I can control myself. I can control the way I think. I can control what I do. I can control what I say. I can control where I go. So just like between those two things, the greatest results I'm going to be able to gain and my desired results is going to be dealing with self and not with others. Not with others. And so there's always these things that are kind of like people said, oh, he said, she said, oh, they did, whatever. It's like, where do I like the word file. I like the word file that Mike's using. Where do I file all of these grievances, all these complaints? Where do I file all the good that's coming my way? Well, for me, if it's good, I file it inside of my brain. I take that in. I'm keeping it. If it fits its ships, I'm keeping that. But for those things that are discouraging, those things that are negative, those toxic thoughts, those things that are opposite of warm vibrations, I am going to intentionally let those go. I'm getting rid of it. So I'm in accord with Mike when we start talking about you don't have to talk about it. Yeah, you don't. If you know how to file it out, if you know how to put it in the garbage and then toss it out, if you do need to talk about it, get that thing out of you. But the minute you get it out of you, you don't just get it out of you by saying something. You have to make a declaration. Now, this is my belief. Some of y'all may not believe this. You make a declaration. So some one of the techniques I'll use is I will say it out loud. Like I'm talking with Mike. Mike, oh my gosh, man, I'm going through XYZ. This thing is so hard. Da 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 da. Maybe Mike will give me some feedback. He'll be like, listen, man, you've been through that, you've been through this. Why don't you just do this? And I'll say, hey, that sounds like a good idea. All right. So at the conclusion of this matter, I don't just leave it there. What I do is I make a declarative statement. And that's how I rid myself of it. I declare, you're right, Mike. That is something I do not need. It's out. I'm done with it. No more. And then by my own integrity, I live by the words that I just spoke out loud. I begin to act on that and I rid myself. If the thing ever comes back to me again, I get rid of it again until it never comes back to me. Because sometimes it's like when you've got so much garbage inside of your trash can, when you pick the bag out of the trash can, stuff falls over on the side and some people don't clean it all up, or sometimes they don't clean inside of the can, and then after a few days the can stinks and you're wondering why. Well, it's because something dripped down into the bottom of the can, something fell over, and you didn't take the time to get rid of it all. So what you do is go get rid of it, wash the can out and get rid of whatever that thing is. So that's analogies. That's who I am. But that's where I come in with you on that, Mike. I like that. I like that, and I believe that it's necessary. Take agency over yourself.
I love it. Um, but let's do a quick let's do a quick thing because I know we got about 7 minutes. So I want to make it really quick. Just an example of how a person would look at something different. Because I don't, your internal representation and forgetting things. Your subconscious doesn't forget anything, right?
Mm,
So a person can, and, and how you actually feel about yourself, your actual value. Like, here's the if you're not making money, let's just use that because a lot of people talk about money, and I hate talking about. I don't want to talk about money. If you don't feel loved, right? If you don't feel loved, there's something internally going on. So you can look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, "Ah, you are loved. You are loved. You are loved." But then there's a disconnect. There's going to be friction there because internally there's something there as to why you feel a certain kind of way. And it's not about necessarily getting rid of it or trashing it. If it works for you, Joe, then it works for you. But for NLP, when we're talking about neuro linguistic programming, you have to you have to see it differently. So I want to do a quick example, and if you all are following me before, because I only got 5 minutes, and I want to make sure the brother gets off in time because I gotta respect his time. You right now think about something and don't make it crazy because this is not, we don't got 2 hours, right? Don't make it crazy. Like something simple. I don't know. Somebody stepped on your shoe. If that's simple to you, right? Where you may have felt slighted. I'll do something that's really easy for people. Think about the time that your mother, possibly, right? Because you always lay your mom. Think about a time when you were young and your mother yelled at you for something that possibly like you did it, but in your mind there was like no reason for her to yell. She was being over, she was being a little bit aggressive in how she yells. Like if you can close your eyes and think about it, think about that time. Like my mom yelled at me at this one time for I don't know what I did. I forgot to wash a dish, and she just took it all the way left. Right. So you're thinking about that time. And you're like, she didn't have to do that to me. And at the time, as a child, this is, you love your mother. You want to be validated with your mother. You want your mother's love. That's one of the things that we want. So when she does that, in your it's not even you're disappointed, right, in yourself at this time, and for whatever reason, or your mother, it could be, right? And I don't want to tell you how to feel. Now, what you do is you take yourself to this specific time. We wouldn't talk about it. I would do this in a group. I would tell everybody go back to that specific time, and then I possibly go into the second. I would go into empathy mode, and I would say, well, what was going on with what could have possibly going on with my mother then that caused her to be this way, right? And now as an adult, you can kind of think about the things that are going on in most adults' minds, like bills have to be paid, the boss was mean, someone cut her off in traffic, whatever it is, and now she's coming home, and whatever thing happened to you, your mother's yelling at you now, right? But now you can go back and you can give yourself the quality of empathy as a child because you didn't have it then, right? You didn't know what that was. You were just a child. You just wanted your mother to love you. You made a mistake. She's yelling. But now as an adult, you can go back to that child and you can say you can write down like what does empathy mean to you?
Mm.
You can take this back and you can visualize yourself as that child now having empathy for your mother. She's most of us are if we're my age, my mother was about the same age now that I was then. Now I can actually give that. I didn't have that then because I didn't have the years of experience of what that looks like. So it's not about so now when you go back and you look, this is one of the things I do with my father. I go back and look, I'm like, well, he wasn't doing something that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like I understand it now, right? Seek and understand, and I understand it now, and I can go back and I can give those qualities. I can give those to my younger me, and now the way that I'm looking at it is totally different. Because what happens is that we log that memory a long time ago. Probably most of us probably forgot a moment till I made you bring it to your awareness for you to come back and say, for that to come up from your mind. And if we had time, we would really, really go through it. But I'm telling you, you do something like that, the next time you see your mother or you see your father or someone has something, you be like, man, I can't. It makes it resonate. The empathy is there for them now. Oh, I can see it because they're human. Sometimes we look at our parents, we're like, man, these people is they're supermen. You know what I mean? So when they do something that is in alignment with how we see them, we draw conclusions to it, and that can start to move into other things because that mother thing could easily go into your wife thing, that or your girlfriend thing or whatever it is. So it's about just kind of just how do we look at these things, not necessarily throwing it away. According to NLP and what I practice, it's slightly different. But if however it works for you, it works for you. All right, brother. It's 4:58. I was a little bit long-winded on that one.
No, man, that was good. That was good. I mean, the important thing is that, like, community beacon, the whole idea is not for us to come up and like start preaching to you or anything like that, but it is about us sharing our own thoughts. It's about us sharing our own lessons that we've learned and then giving that to you. And so we just hope that you all will take something. It doesn't matter. Take whatever it is, whatever tool you can gain here, and then distribute some of your tools here with us as well, so that we all can grow together. It's a community, right? So we're hoping that you enjoyed this time. I don't have any other words. I love, I mean, I got a ton of other stuff. I actually have more stuff to talk about. But the time is what the time is. And man, I'm just grateful to be here with the brother one more time. And if anything, I'll say this as something to take home with you. Mike said, "What does empathy mean to you?" And if anything, I just thought about that, Mike. I was like, that's dope because you basically go back in time through your mind. And we talked about this once before, and you replace your pain with a remedy. That is an awesome tool. So I hope you all take that with you. That's it from me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's 5 o'clock. The brother got to go, and that means I got to go. Appreciate this hour. Appreciate the brother. Community Beacon. Next week we'll be talking about physical, right? Physical. I think that's what it is. Physical health. So
Physical
that
health.
that's yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.